Okay, at 8:25 this morning, the dispatch center here in the Strafford County Sheriff's Office received a call from jail staff indicating that they had potentially multiple potential drug overdose emergencies in the medical arena for us to deal with. Based on that information, the dispatch center here dispatched several ambulances from both AMR, ambulance service, and the Dover Fire Rescue. We also dispatched law enforcement staff from this office, and we were joined there by the City of Dover Police Department to help us with the investigation initially. What we found to date is that shortly after a morning head count at the jail staff noticed activity that was suspicious to them, out of sorts. Further investigation prompted them to deploy medical services, to include the deployment of Narcan to members of the prison population. This was done prior to the arrival of outside medical services. Upon the arrival of outside medical services, medical care was transferred to paramedics from those two agencies that I described to you, and decisions were made to transport a total of 3 of the prison population. Reports to date would indicate that those 3 will fully recover and be returned to the jail population, but that has not taken place as of this time. Our investigation to date has indicated, it's early, but it has indicated a quick response from staff at the House of Corrections, both from a scene security standpoint and a medical services deployment, have contributed greatly, not only to our criminal investigation, but also to the health of these 3 inmates. We thank the AMR Medical Services, the Dover Fire and Rescue, the Dover Police Department, and all other medical services that have assisted us with this.
Where were these inmates in the House of Corrections at the time that this went down?
And that's something that I wouldn't want the jail to release at this time. That, as you know, the jail population is broken into pods, and releasing that type of information could impact our investigation at this point. So we're going to keep that information close to the vest.
Do you know how many people were suffering from some sort of medical emergency? I know 3 were transported, but were there more than that? And can you give us a ballpark?
Yeah, there was a total of 4 that we had medical concerns with. 3 were transported. That's the information I have right now. Again, we're a couple of hours into this, which seems like a couple of hours is a long time, but it's still early in an investigation.
So can you confirm these were drug overdoses?
It was reported to us that way. We're conducting our investigation along those lines, but no, I can't medically confirm that to you at this time.
You said Narcan was used. Were opiates found at the scene?
I don't want to comment on that either way, because the investigation is ongoing and I want to protect the integrity of that investigation at this time.
Who administered the Narcan?
Jail staff administered the Narcan, and I do not believe it was further administered upon the arrival of outside medical services. Do you know the answer to that?
I did not see anybody deploying that upon arrival by outside staff.
And Chris, you may be able to speak to this. Can you just talk about the training that your staff has been through to be ready to respond to situations like this with Narcan?
Sure, we have extensive training in recognition of people who are under the influence, and we have had our medical staff extensively trained in the deployment of Narcan.
Mm-hmm. Was it the medical staff that administered the Narcan, or what are COs? Anyone can administer it, no?
We have our medical staff that are properly trained in that, yes.
Do you think the quick thinking of those folks could have saved lives this morning?
I believe that the quick thinking of all of our staff there certainly contributed into the outcome that the sheriff has articulated.
Now, Chris, can you describe for us in general how safe that jail is? I know that there's very specialized programs there for people that are in recovery.
Sure. We take pride in the safety and security of our facility, and we take every effort to increase the safety and security that we do at our facility. We're always looking to improve and evaluating our procedures, and if we find that there needs to be some changes to those, then we absolutely will implement them, because it's important to keep those that are in our custody, my staff, as safe as we can.
I'm sure I know the answer, but is there any indication at this point how the drugs may have gotten into the jail?
Yeah, if you asked him that question, I was going to stop him from answering the question. That's part of the internal investigation that we're doing, which is going to potentially go into criminal arenas. So, yes, we obviously have an area that we're pursuing, but we're not limiting ourselves to one area. We're going to follow this wherever the evidence takes us, and I really can't comment specifically on that at this time.
What
With
kind of
the drug-
charges could inmates be facing if they were found distributing drugs within the jail community?
Well, the various charges, but the general one that we think of is bringing that type of contraband into a facility as a crime within itself. That's the one we focused on initially. But again, we've got a long way to go before we would look at specific charges. We do believe we have a criminal investigation, and we're going to follow it wherever it takes us.
Now, we understand just from recent arrests involving the jail that there has been an issue with drugs at Strafford County Jail. How many cases have you investigated so far this year?
Yeah, if you look across the jail population across the country, drugs in any jail environment are a concern all over the state, all over the country. And we've had several, I don't have an exact number, I can get one for you and forward it to you. But we've had several since I've been employed here as the sheriff of Strafford County. Always found outstanding cooperation from not only the jail staff, but the inmate population assists us with some of these investigations, which is why we like to keep those investigations close to the vest for as long as we can. We want to make sure we keep open any channels of information that could come to us with result to this investigation.
And I don't know if either of you can speak to this, but with the growing opiate epidemic in our state, what have you seen? How have things changed within the jail? And how have you had to adapt? I'm sure you already spoke to the Narcan training, but can you talk a little bit about how you've had to kind of adapt and learn to recognize warning signs and things like that? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, we've always been concerned about making sure that we remain vigilant. That's one of the things that we talk about. I mean, that's our primary objective. And so just recognizing the signs that would indicate that we need to explore whether or not someone is potentially in that position is really the best thing that we can do.
Has there been any, have you guys taken any actions to try to prevent this kind of contraband or whatever it may be, even in general, just drugs being brought into the jail? Have you guys taken any specific steps to stop that? Any protocol changes or anything like that we should be aware of?
We have. We've changed some of our mail procedures. We've changed, we invested in a secure pass scanner to prevent contraband from coming in through body cavities. We've increased our cell searches inside the facility. These are all things that we do because we're constantly trying to minimize contraband that comes into the facility.
And has that been over the past couple years or even more recently than that?
Recently we invested in the secure pass scanner. We've always prided ourselves in searching the facility to locate and eradicate contraband.
And that mail procedure, I think we did a story on it. It was a couple years back or so. And is that still in place, that there are no homemade cards or anything like that that can come through the mail? Is that still true?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so just to wrap up, what's the overall message here for people that are at home and watching and may have some loved ones or friends that are in the Department of Corrections?
From a law enforcement investigative standpoint, I would take this opportunity to remind people the epidemic that we're facing here in this state and throughout our country. It has no barriers. Strafford County Jail is not alone in having this type of an incident take place within its confines, and that everyone should be aware of the issue and remain open-minded to help people with addiction issues. We embrace the deployment of Narcan throughout the Strafford County complex. It played a critical role in this incident and in what I will call a successful health outcome of this incident. And it's going to require, this issue is going to require collective work from throughout a community. In this case, throughout the community within the jail, within the Strafford County correction system, to include the inmate population. No one wants to see people hurt by a misuse of opioids or any other type of drug. And if that's what we end up having here, we're going to do everything we can within the limits of the law to make sure it doesn't happen again and to bring people that may have committed crimes